And all the code for this is on GitHub too, so you can go and inspect it later and pick up on all my mistakes. We are relying on the Wi-Fi as well, so fingers crossed that holds up. So the first thing I'm going to do is run npm init. All this is going to do is just create a package.json file which just contains some information about my project. More importantly, it will host all the dependencies. So whenever I install a thing, it will be saved in this. This means if someone else later on goes and grabs that project, they can just run npm install and Jspm install and just get all the dependencies without having to worry about what exactly they need to install. So I'm just going to tab through all this. It's not really important for now. So all we now have, we've gained a package.json file. That's all we've gained. I've also installed Jspm globally. If you hadn't, then it's just Jspm install, npm install --minus global Jspm. I've already done that just to save on a couple of minutes. So I'm going to do Jspm. It's going to ask me a bunch of questions. I'm going to hit just yes for most of them. These are all documented. I haven't got time to go through them now. There's only one interesting thing here, which is going to ask me which Es6 transpiler I'd like to use, Tracer or Babel. Tracer is like the old kid on the block. It's maintained by Google. It's good. It's what we use in production because we haven't bothered swapping. Babel is the new hit, the shiny, doing a lot of really cool stuff, and it's genuinely an amazing open source project that's probably one of the most important ones we have at the moment. And it's like all done by one guy, which is just crazy. So I'm going to switch to Babel. So now what it's going to do is it's going to go and install a bunch of stuff. It's created some files for us, and this is where we rely on the Wi-Fi. Okay, we're all good. I'm almost glad that not many people turned up because it increased the chances of the Wi-Fi playing along. So we're going to install, it's installing a bunch of things, and it's installing npm, so it's going to npm installing things like Babel, a bunch of other stuff it needs. The beauty of Jspm is that all this stuff, this would be a nightmare to set up manually, but thankfully we don't have to do it. What it's also installed is a few, you can't quite see it, it's probably too much, let's scroll over too much. It's also installed, these are the most interesting parts. It's installed a thing called System.js. System.js is a project by a guy called Guy Bedford, along with Jspm. And what System.js is it's a universal module loader for JavaScript. What it means is you can give it a file that's defined in the CommonJS form, which is Node, the AMD form, which is something like required.js, or the ES6 module syntax, and System.js can just load them all in through magic and wizardry. It uses a thing called the ES6 module loader to load in its ES6 modules, also written by Guy Bedford. He's basically my best friend. We've never met, but he is going to be my best friend. I've decided. So basically all this stuff is happening under the hood for you, and it's really nice to do. And I'll explain more as we kind of meet more of the Jspm things throughout. Cool. So again now, you can't see that's right at the bottom. Let me know at any point as well if I forget that you can't always see if I'm right down at the bottom. We've got Jspm packages, all the stuff Jspm needs, and that's it. So we're now ready to go. I'm going to create my index file. I'm going to do it all in Vim. And I set up a little shortcut to do this because I could be able to title that and you don't want to watch me title that. Nothing too exciting. HTML tag, blah, 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 title. I'm going to load in system.js. System.js loads in that library. What it also does is it polyfills this, that line there, the new system API, which is part of the ES6 module spec. There are two specs. There's one for the syntax for importing and exporting from modules, which I'll cover in a minute. There's also this one, which is the API for doing these things programmatically. The first spec, the one for importing and exporting, is kind of nailed, confirmed, all done, won't change, you should use it now. This one is still a little bit open, could change, highly unlikely to. There's a lot of really cool things. So all we're doing here is loading in System.js, referencing the config file, which is all the configuration for System.js. For the most part, we won't touch this. Jspm will maintain it for us. We'll edit it in a bit, just as an excuse for me to show you it. And then we then import app/main, which is basically saying go and load app/main.js. Typically, what you do is you'll have one file which is like the entry point for your entire application, and from there, everything else that you need will be imported. So, if I write that, we're going to need to make a directory called app. This is the problem with coding on a small resolution and big font. But I've got main.js, and I'm just going to confirm for myself that this is all working. Console log hello world. I'm running a little server in the background, and hopefully, oh no. I didn't put it in. can see down the bottom there we've got hello world. Phew, that's really concerned then. This is kind of cool. So System.js has gone, it's made a XHR request to load in that file. It's then being parsed and evaluated and whatnot, and we've ended up with hello world. Quite a lot of cool stuff happened there, despite there not being much going on. What's also cooler is that we can use ES6 stuff in it, and Babel's going to kick in and start transpiling this stuff automatically. So let me just give myself a bit more room, if I can zoom in. If I instead use these backticks, which is kind of template strings, much like string interpolation in Ruby, or basically every language that's not JavaScript. And if I do like 2 plus 2 is, and then I do this, and I do 2 plus 2. So this basically is going to evaluate what's in those curly brackets. And hopefully now if I refresh, we find the console, we do get 2 plus 2 is 4. So that's really, really cool, because that's kicked in and kind of, if we go to network, and refresh again, I believe it will look, it's on a bunch of stuff, so it's loaded in the ES6 module loader, and it's kind of, it's just, everything's taken care for us, kind of behind the scenes. That's what I really like about working in this workflow, and you hopefully see as I install more and more things, that I don't want to really ever have to go and configure anything. It just, I said, okay, it all sounds far too good to be true, which is another reason I like doing it as a live demo rather than slide. But this stuff genuinely does work and holds up pretty well. Cool. So that's kind of the first step, and we've passed the first test. What I want to do now is get a library that's going to let me make an AJAX request to the GitHub API to pull in some JSON that lists my open source contributions. I'm going to use one called whatwg fetch. This is a polyfill for the new fetch API, which is incoming. It's maintained by GitHub. You don't need to see that, it's not too exciting. So effectively, the reason I'm using this over another library is this stuff is going to be in the browser eventually. When it does, it means I can ditch this as a dependency. Which is another good reason to use all this stuff today is when like ES6 modules are in Chrome or whatever browsers you need to support, you should just be able to remove System.js and it should all just kind of hold itself together on its own. It should be really nice. So we go into the terminal, and I'm going to run Jspm install npm :wg fetch. The npm there does exactly what you'd probably imagine. It tells Jspm you need to go and look on the npm to find this particular module. Internet is good. Cool, that's easy enough. Okay, so if we go and look now at the config file, this is a file that Jspm kind of maintains for us. So you are able to edit it if you need to. It says a bunch of config, Babel, blah, blah, blah. A bunch of this config, by the way, was set up when I hit enter through all the init, and you could configure it if you wanted. And down here you'll see that it's got this map object. It just basically maps names to where it's actually going to go and find the source files. So what this means here is now wg minus fetch is here. I can go into app/main.js. I'm just going to say import what wg. I always want to type tf fetch like that, and let me just get rid of that. Okay. I'll explain all that's going on in a minute, but I like to prove to myself that every stage this stuff is working, and it has worked. So I've gained a global fetch. This is the first time we've seen the new ES6 module syntax. This doesn't actually imagine it's just going to go and make a request and file it in. This is a bit of an odd one in that because this file is a global, it kind of polyfills in a global. We don't need to get hold of what it exports. We don't need to kind of import an actual thing. But we'll do that very shortly. All this is doing is just loading in that file. If we look at the network and browse through it, you can see somewhere online there you go. You can see just there it's loading in what's in effect, blah, 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 and you see it's loading Babel for us as well, and everything else is just kind of doing Babel. That's really good. However, typing whatwg minus fetch is far too much effort. So what I like to do often is map these things. This is polyfilling the fetch library, so I'm just going to change this map to say fetch. Stop trying to make fetch happen. I've got to get that in, sorry. If I refresh now, it's going to error because it's going to look for whatwg fetch, but it doesn't find it because I've renamed that to fetch. I'm going to go up here and just change that, and hopefully now we'll be back to it all working. Yeah. So that's kind of the main reason I found to dive into the config so far is if you just want to change the name of something. Often modules have longer names than you want to type in the import. Worth noting as well that if I didn't have this fetch here, I could type import npm : blah 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 blah, and that would work just fine. But obviously, for very obvious reasons, I do not want to do that. So you kind of can maintain this now. I could have also done this when I installed the module. So I could have typed jspm install fetch equals npm colon what wg fetch. And that would have told jspm to set up the mapping to be fetch. So you can do it in the command line as well. Right, so I'm going to leave that import fetch in, and we can start actually writing some proper code. And create a file called getrepos.js. This is just going to export a function that lets me hit the GF API and return with some data, or rather return with a promise that might resolve to some data. Okay, so we use the export keyword. This is part of the ES6 module spec. I'm going to say export default function. It's going to take in a username, like that. So in ES6 modules, there are two types of exports. There are named exports and there are default exports. A default export is effectively the one thing that this module is responsible for. So this getrepos module is seen to just export a function. It's the only thing it does. You're kind of encouraged to go for default exports generally. I like the idea of a module exporting either one thing or one function. I think that works quite well. There's also named exports. When you have multiple exports and explicitly named them. We'll come across those in a bit too. But more often than not, I find myself using this over named exports. And it's kind of what the people behind designing the syntax want to kind of push people towards. Okay. I'm going to create a constant. Again, not in JavaScript. Babel's going to deal with that for me. In real life, I would never make this a constant, but I'm demoing stuff, so I'm going to make it a constant. And I'm going to hit hps api.com/users. I'm going to interpolate in the username, and I'm going to go /repos, and that's even going to fit on one line. And I'm going to return, is it? Have I messed up? Is that just in? I'm going to return fetch URL. So I give that URL to fetch, which has been polyfilled in. And I'm going to say .then. I'm going to take the response I get. And the fetch polyfill provides a method on these things called JSON, which is going to just pass it effectively. So fetch is going to return the promise. Who's familiar with promises? Sorry, that hard. So promises are effectively a better way of dealing with asynchronicity. So